Hi guys, welcome back to Java Full Stack Made Easy. So this is session 54 and in this session we'll talk about more realistic things in Angular where we will be creating model classes and also we will discuss about the constructor in Angular and also we are gonna bind the same, that means the property of the model classes onto the template. So let's get started without wasting the time. The very first thing will be like in the previous session, we spoke about some of the structural directives in Angular. So, two such structural directives we have discussed, that is ng for and ng if. Uh, Continuing with today's session, we will be talking about the model classes. So, again I'm creating the application in the same Angular project that I have created in session 1 of Angular. Fine. So here the very first thing that I'm going to introduce is the model classes for you. So for creating a model class we simply need to create a TypeScript file. So I'll click on the source directory and then I will just be creating a file and I will name that file maybe as a player.model.typescript or any entity that we like. We can take that entity and then we will be creating the properties into it. If you remember in Java we used to create model classes, right? And we used to create properties in it and then we used to generate the getters and setters and all those stuff. Similarly here also we are going to create model classes. So I click on the src and then I create a new file from here. So when I create a new file, if you see all these files that are named in Angular, so every file is named like app.spec.typescript and then app.component.typescript or maybe an app.pipe.typescript, so that you get to know what exactly it is. So the naming convention for model classes that I'll be following will be the class name, that is gonna be student, then dot model dot TypeScript. So the student.model.typescript indicates that I'm going to create a class called as student and which is going to be a model. Fine, because in Angular we can create components which are TypeScript files, we can create pipes which are TypeScript files, we can create services that are again TypeScript files. So to differentiate between them we are writing this model or maybe a service or a component in between that. Fine. So here I'm creating a student.model.typescript. So a model class is nothing but a simple TypeScript class. So we know that in TypeScript we create classes by using an export keyword. That's because we will be importing these classes in some other class. Fine. So here we go, export class. So let's name this class as student and let's create few of the properties of the student. So like a roll number of the student, and roll number of the student will be of type number, and this is gonna be what initially the roll number that I'm gonna give will be 0. Fine. So let's give that roll number and let's give a few more properties of the student, like a name of the student which is going to be of type string, and as for now that name is empty. And maybe what marks of the student can be given, again the marks would be number, and as for now the marks are 0. Similarly we can go for more properties, like maybe there can be a gender of the student, contact number of the student, semester of the student, or anything. Fine. So as of now I'll create few more, like a gender of the student, again that will be of type string, and the initial value of that is going to be 0, and maybe a semester of the student, uh, again the initial value I'm giving it as 0. So I have just created a simple class that contains a few properties, right? So here if it was a Java class we would have generated the getters and setters, and then we would have created constructor with arguments and all that. So as of now in my Angular I'm just creating this particular class and I'm just leaving it as it is, right? So now that my major focus is what I actually want to create these model classes, and then I would like to create the object of this model class into my component, and these property, the value of these properties, I want to bind it on a template. So that is the actual goal. So let's go ahead and understand how do we do that. So as of now, what I have done is I have created a model class. Now after creating the model class, I'll go to my component and I'll try to create the instance of this and then initialize all the values of this uh, class, that is this properties of this class student. So I'll go to my app.typescript, right? This is the file, and I'll clean up everything that's written before. Yeah, let's just clean that up. And also I'll open up my app.html where I'll not be having anything as of now. Fine. So let's clean up everything, and now here I want to actually create an object of student. So let's see how do we create the object of the student. Fine. So student of type student is what I'm creating. Fine. So that's created. This student is actually a name of the variable, right? So generally in Angular, what we do in the TypeScript, basically we create the identifier and then give the type of that, right? So similarly, I'm creating a student as an identifier, and then this student is the type of this particular identifier. So what will be the value that will be present here? So as of now the value is null, right? So what I can do is I can say that it is a student, and then I can directly say it is of type new student as well. So I'm creating an object of student. So now that I have created the object of this student, in Java also we used to do this similar stuff, right? But there we used to first define the type and then we used to give the identifier. So here we are going to give the identifier first, then the type will be defined. So if I write it like this, it's still fine, where I don't specify the type. So both are the valid syntax in TypeScript to create the instance. So I'm creating a student instance now, and I need to now initialize the values. Initial values are already given here, so if I don't initialize it, it is going to be 0, empty and all that, right? So let us now initialize these values. So if I want to initialize the values, I can create a constructor. That is something which we have already discussed in Java as well. Constructor is used to initialize the data members of a class, and also used to create the instance of this class, right? So this is the first thing that gets executed. So I'm gonna use the student dot what the roll number and all that. So this dot student dot roll number, so I want to give the roll number for the student. So as of now, let's just give the roll number as maybe 18 or something, and then the student dot name I want to give. So let's give some name. Okay. And what else we had? The gender of the student was there, so student dot gender. Fine. And then what was there? Maybe marks was there, so let's say student dot marks. Yes, it is there. So marks I want to give maybe 100, and the student dot semester was there, so I just want to give the semester as well. So I hope that I have defined 5 properties into my model. So yes, 5 properties are defined. All the 5 properties I'm initializing inside the constructor. Fine. So here what we are learning in TypeScript is how do we create the object, that is how do we create and initialize the object, and then initialize the data members of that, and then I want this object's properties to be displayed onto my HTML page. So let's go ahead and see how do we do that. So if we want to interpolate these properties onto the template, it's quite easy. I just need to, like, first I'll just say roll number is actually what the roll number. So interpolation, we know that we have a student object created there, so student dot what we have, the roll number property is there, so student dot roll number, that way we can just create it. Okay. So similarly, what else we have the name of the student and all that. So let's create it inside a pre tag. Fine. So similarly, what I'm gonna do is 3 4 5 properties I have defined. So it had a name, a roll number, semester, marks, and gender. So these were the things I have initialized before, so that's what I'm gonna take. Name, semester, marks, and gender. Okay, so these are the things I have initialized, and I'm just taking up that onto an HTML page. And let's go ahead and do a ng serve. I have saved all the files, ng serve hyphen o, that opens up into the browser. So let's see whether we will be, sorry, so it is ng serve hyphen o. So now that I have created a model and I have initialized it. In fact, I have created a object of that model, and then finally I'm interpolating the properties of that object onto my uh, HTML page. Fine. So let's go ahead and see how it looks like. Sorry. So this is actually the name, typo. So there we go. So you can see that roll number, name, semester, marks, and gender, all of the details are actually placed onto my HTML. Fine. So let's just add something. I think it is coming from the index.html. Let's check if it is there. So we'll remove that from there. Then h1. Let's remove it. Let's go to this HTML stuff, and let's make this as h1 so that the font size gets increased, and this looks pretty. So here we go, we have the roll number, name, semester, marks, and gender. So there we go. Fine. So we created a model, and also we have created an object out of that particular model and initialized all the values of it and interpolated the same onto an HTML. So this is something which we will be frequently using even when we communicate with the APIs and everything in future, where what we are going to do is, instead of getting these values from directly from here, we will be getting these values from some API and initialize the object, and then we are going to interpolate the same onto the HTML. Fine. So I'll first send you everything that's being written here, and after that we'll move ahead and look at more of the model stuff. Fine. So let me first give you the model itself. So this is our session 54, right? So let's create a repository for the same. So this is day 54, demo 1 model. To create a model, click on src folder and create a new file. Name it as student.model.typescript. Fine. So you can in fact name anything based on the entity name. You can give a similar model name. So this is our student.model.typescript. Here we go. And then I have created the app.typescript, which actually was app.component.typescript in the previous versions of Angular. So I'm used to that. Okay, and then the app.html file where I'm binding all of these properties. All right, so here we go. All right, so now the next thing is that what I want is uh, the properties, in fact the values. I have actually given all the values inside the constructor, right? So if you look at this example, in this case I have given all the values inside the constructor in the TypeScript file. But what if I want this value actually to be given uh, from the form, or maybe like from an HTML I want to accept the values from the user. So how do we do that? Is there a way doing that? Yes, obviously in a real-time scenario nobody's gonna initialize the value like this here and then interpolate the same onto an HTML page. We accept the value from the end user, and then we can interpolate that onto an HTML page. So let's go ahead and understand how do we do it. So what I basically want is I want the roll number to be given by the user, and maybe a gender to be given by the user, and the other things to be given by the user. So let's understand how do we do it. Okay, so here this particular tag is gonna print the values of that, and now I want to accept the roll number from the user. So I'm gonna take the input type is equal to number box, and then since I want to accept that from the user, the value from the TypeScript should be reflected to HTML, and the value from HTML should be reflected to TypeScript. So we want two-way data binding here. So if you remember, you want two-way data binding, always go for banana in a box and ng model. And here we used to write the variable, but here what variable we have? We have the variable as roll number, but that is actually coming up from the student dot roll number. So what we can simply do is we can say that student dot roll number. So this way also we can bind the properties. Fine. So two-way data binding works this way as well. So now that I have given a roll number, and I want to check whether that roll number what I have entered gets displayed here or not. So I'll go here, and you can see that 18 is being displayed here. So if I change the roll number here, that is if I say 45 here, two-way data binding, roll number is changed here as well, right? So that's the magic of two-way data binding. Even when you create models, even you can uh, bind the properties of the model that you have created. Fine. Similarly, like for name and everything, I would again go for what? Input type is equal to text, and then bind that student dot name and all that. Fine. Similarly, what we can also do is, in this case, if you look at the example, there is gender, right? So gender generally is not entered like male, female and all. Gender is selected, right? So if you have a radio button and all that, in that case you select that radio button, and then the gender gets selected, right? So let's see how can we do that in an Angular environment. Fine. So for that, once again, we know that we would need a radio button for that. So let's take input type is equal to radio. Okay, and then the text to be displayed here is gonna be male. Similarly, I'll create three for the same male, female and other. Okay, female and other. Now, so this is a radio button, and in HTML itself we have discussed that there is this is just the visible text, and then there should be a value of each of the radio button. So let's give the value for it, and we can give the value same as the text that is appearing here, or we can give it as MFO. So this will be a visible text, and this will actually be the value. So as of now I'm just gonna give it as MFO. Later I will show you what is the importance of that value. Value actually is for developers. Fine. And the visible text is for the end user. Okay, so I have given the value, but if you remember in HTML itself we have discussed that if we don't put all these radio buttons under one radio button group, then we would not be able to differentiate them, right? So let's first perform the ng model on the same, and that way we would be able to put them into one single group. Let's understand that. So I want to again perform a two-way data binding, that is banana in a box, and then perform an ng model will be equal to what? The student dot gender is something that I want to bind to this radio buttons. Fine. So let's bind all of them, and let's save it again, and let's see how things looks like first. So here we go, we have the radio button. Now that the gender male is being given, uh, that's because of what I have already given that into the TypeScript here, right? So that's the values being displayed. Now I will select female, so you can see that the gender is F. If I select other, the gender is O, and then if I select male, the gender is M. So what is being displayed now when I bind the property, it is the value that is being displayed. So this is the value that gets stored into the database if we save this in future. Fine. So that's how things work. So if we want the visible text and the value to be same, no problem, we can give that as well. But usually what developers do is visible text they keep these things, and the values they generally keep this, because it saves a lot of memory. Fine. So if I want this to be displayed like this, male, female and other, I can do that as well. Fine. But that the general way of doing it is this mfo. Fine. So that way we can have the different type of input and then can also bind that here. Fine. So hopefully this is also clear to you. How am I actually gonna take these things. Fine. So also let me first share this with you, and then also I'll show you how do we initialize it inside TypeScript. So let me just copy this and put this as well into the repository. So this let's say demo2 binding with radio button. Okay, so that's what I have done here, and also I'm performing an ng model here. So app.typescript, this is our app.typescript, and then the app.html. So these are the things that we are discussing here usually happens in the real time. So in future obviously this is going to help you a lot, because our focus is majorly on what are developing real life stuff. So in this case I'm not giving you a model because the model is same as what we have used in the previous example. Fine. So like I have initialized the values into this app.typescript here, this is not the only way of initializing the values. So I can initialize this value in one single line as well. So let me show you how do we do that. For that I'll be taking another object of student itself. So let's call it as student1 and then initialize that student1 without taking all of these stuff. How do we do that? So to do that, what we can do is we can say this dot student1 is equal to, directly we can give the object. So how do we give the objects directly? So if I put my cursor over here, you can understand that there are missing properties from this student, that is roll number, name, marks, gender and semester. So I have to give all that roll number, name, semester and everything. So let's give the roll number, comma, the roll number comes up here, then the name, and then comma, the value of that name, and then what, I have the gender, and then the value of the gender comes up here, then what, marks we have, then the value of the marks will come up here, and then I have the semester, and then the value of the semester will come up here. So let's give all of that. So key value pair, gender, marks and semester. All right, so let's give the value. So roll number, let's give it as 2 or anything. Name, test, gender, female, marks maybe 90, and then semester maybe let's just say 5. Oh, okay, sorry. So it should be what, key colon value. For second property it is comma, then key value, it will be a key value pair for semester and marks. I have done that correctly. All right, so student 1 is initialized. Now I go here, and then the second student I want to display, so which will be displayed here under a pre tag, because whatever I have written it will be displayed as it is. So instead of student, let's display all the values of student 1. Okay, let's save it, and here you can see even those values, roll number 2, test 590 and female, are displayed. So in the previous example also I have initialized the student, here also I have initialized the student. Previous example I have initialized all the properties separately, which is quite what, complicated you can say, or takes a lot more boilerplate than just this. So whatever suits best to you, you can use any one of these two. Fine. So I'll copy this TypeScript and also the HTML. This is gonna be our demo 3. Demo 3, initializing model with key value pair, right? So here is the TypeScript file and the app.html. Model remains the same for this example as well. Let's call it as app.typescript. Fine. So in both the examples, we are initializing the value, the properties of the model itself. The only thing is that in the second example, I have done it on one single line. So also, let's go ahead and understand that what if sometimes what happens is that you get a lot of values from the APIs, and how do you deal with those values? That is, how do you interpolate the set of values, set of objects, in fact, coming from the APIs or database. Just think it like I want to display all the details of the students that are displayed in that are stored into my database. So as of now, we have not connected it to the database. We are not connecting it to an API and all. So we will be having the data defined by ourselves only. Later, we will just replace this data with the data coming from an API. We will be done with that, right? So what I have is I already have a student object created, right? So here what I'm gonna do is I'll not take the student object. In fact, I'll clean up this values as well. So what I'm gonna do is I will be taking an array of type student. So let's call that as what? Maybe students of type student array. Okay, as of now that is an empty array that I'm creating. So then what I'm gonna do is I will just be creating these multiple student, and then I can add them into an array. Fine. So once again what I can do is that I already have this stuff here, right, defined. So let me show you multiple ways of doing this as well. So let's say this dot students will be equal to the array of these values. Fine. So I have this. So that is one way of doing this, where I'll be defining multiple values. So one of the student is defined like this, then put up a comma and then keep defining the students that you like. So like roll number 1 2 3, let's define it 1 2 and 3. Some name like first is test, maybe Virat and Rohit, and then genders, male gender, some marks. Let's keep the marks and semester same. My major focus here is how do we initialize an array, and then how do we actually interpolate the same array onto our HTML. So that way I've initialized the array, and then I just want to interpolate that array onto an HTML. So since I know that I'm interpolating an array on an HTML, so for this what I would actually need is a table, or maybe an UL or OL or anything that actually defines the stuff clearly. So for a better view, look and feel, I'm gonna take a table over here. So let's define the table and see how we are gonna going to uh, interpolate all that array values onto a table. So let's define a table first, and then let's have a table row which is gonna be a table heading, in fact. So first table row will contain the table heads, that's gonna be let's say roll number. Okay, so let's close this th. So we have a roll number, and then we will take the name, and then semester, gender, marks, right? I think that's it. So student roll number, name of the student, gender of the student, marks and semester. So these are the values that I had to be displayed, and after defining, after having a main heading, now I need to get the data, and now the data is actually coming up from where, right? The table data, every row should be picked up from a array, right? So each row contains one value out of this array, right? So 1 2 3 values are there. So as long as there are values into the students, there should be student picked up, and then that value properties of the students should be picked up. So let us understand how do we do that. So in each of this row, let me just define it this way. So each row actually contains 5 TDs into it, right? So let's define those 5 TDs first. Okay, and instead of this, what I will do is I'll copy up all of this, which is roll number and all that. 1 2 3 4 5. So this is the sequence. So I copy this first. I just keep it as it is. I know that that is the data that is coming up, and the table rows needs to be generated, right? So how, as long as there are values into the students array. So if you remember in the previous session what we have done, whenever we had an array and we wanted to interpolate that onto an HTML page, we have gone for the ng for, right? So same thing we are gonna use here as well. So ng for will be what? Let student of students. That's the array that we have defined, right? So let students of student of students, that means it is going to iterate as long as there are values into the students array, and in every iteration it will pick up one object from there. That means it is going to iterate over this array that we have created, and every time it is going to pick up this entire array, which is actually a new student object. Fine. So that will be stored into this student. So what we are gonna do, roll number, right? So we need to interpolate this student, right? Dot roll number. So this way we are gonna interpolate the things. So we have student dot roll number, then here the student dot name, and then gender here. That's why I copied the above one. Gender, marks, so that the sequence remains the same. And then the last one is the semester. So these are the property names. Let's save it and see whether the data is interpolated or not. So you can see that roll number 1 2 3, test Virat, Rohit, female, male, male, 90, and semester. I did not change that from here, right? So all the data is being picked up from this array and it is interpolated onto my HTML. So in future, instead of we initializing the array like this here, what we are going to do is we will just replace this code from the data coming up from an API or a database or anything that we like, right? So that is how simple it will be in future when we just replace that data. So I hope you are enjoying the series. In the next session we'll talk more about these stuff, the real world stuff of interpolation, retrieving the data and everything. So hope you like the series. If you like it, do share it with your friends, let them also learn, and you can then compete with your friends in making yourself better every day. Fine. So do share it with your friends, like, share, and comment, and see you in the next video. Thank you.